How you doing? Sup nerds, and welcome to another exciting episode of QA. I'm your host, Michael, broadcasting to you not live at all from a college of an unknown location. The last two episodes have been kind of heavy, so we're going to be talking about something slightly less heavy, or, as you might also say, something lighter. I was in a class the other day, which is what I do. I take classes. That's the whole thing about studenting. That's what you do. So I was in a class the other day, and one of my professors used a word. Now, in anthropology, you hear a lot of words that sound like they're made up, but this one was particularly striking because the word was positionality. Let me repeat that. Positionality. My immediate reaction to that is that's not only a made-up word, it's also a made-up word that doesn't need to be made up in the first place, because instead of saying positionality, you can pretty much just say position. Now, the idea behind positionality is that positionality is how you're situated in your life thanks to your various identities and such. But you can just as easily sum that up by saying position as by saying positionality, which I think is kind of silly. It's just arbitrary, which is, to be fair, a big quarrel I have with academic language in general is that when we start talking, it just becomes ridiculously disgusting. I wrote a blog post about this too, like in typing form, which I'll link down there. But my take on it as a whole is that while long words are fun to use and they do in fact make you feel smarter, if you can explain something in short words, you know it just as well, if not better, than the person who can only explain it in long words. It really seems like an intuitive judgment to me, personally, that the creation of new academical language simply brings about an unnecessary barrier between those who have possessed some degree of learning and those who are not. But that's just my personal take on it. But enough about social justice. I've talked enough about that this week to make myself blue in the face, except I haven't because I'm very tan. So, instead, we'll turn to an all-new nature segment that we've just created called The Beautiful Fish of the Week. This week's beautiful fish is the yellowfin tuna, an incredibly large fish that's faster than your nightmares and lives in the open ocean. Now, you might usually think of tuna as a fish that's sort of soft and mushy and pink and tastes really good with celery in it, but in actuality, seen in the wild, the tuna is a majestic creature. No, I'm serious. I'm really actually serious. Look. Look at that majestic bastard. The tuna is one of the fastest fish in the ocean, which means it's one of the fastest creatures in the world, because the ocean is ridiculously competitive like that. The tuna is also really scary. If you've ever seen one swimming in the wild, or even swimming in an aquarium, you know that they have a tendency to swim along very normally and then suddenly accelerate to 50 million miles per hour. For an idea of how large the tuna gets, it's been known to reach over 400 pounds, which is still not as big as the largest of the tuna, which would be the bluefin tuna, but it is fairly chunky, even for a fish. As if that wasn't enough, tuna are also predatory, hunting smaller fish, crustaceans, and really anything that they can catch and fit into their face, which is a whole lot of things, because tuna are fast and huge. That concludes this week's Beautiful Fish of the Week. Thank you for tuning in, and have a spiffy day. Until next time, this is Michael, signing off from QA, and wishing you a spiffy afternoon. And if it's not actually going to be afternoon where you live, then you can have a spiffy morning or a spiffy night too. I mean, it's kind of a general all-purpose sort of wish, but It's going to be afternoon pretty soon where I'm sitting.